The first thing I noticed was the silence on the radio. Channel 9, our dispatch frequency, is never quiet. Not at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. Not when we have got 412 trucks rolling across 26 states carrying everything from frozen chicken tenders to pharmaceutical-grade insulin that will go bad if the trailer drops below 32 degrees for more than 45 minutes. My name is Roy Henderson, 54 years old, and for the last 11 years I have been the Senior Logistics Systems Manager at Overland Logistics Group out of Memphis, Tennessee. That is a fancy title for the guy who makes sure 412 trucks know where they are going, what they are carrying, and how to get there without killing the cargo, the driver, or the company's profit margins. When dispatch goes silent, it means one of two things. Either every single truck is running so perfectly that nobody needs help, which has happened exactly 0 times in my career, or the system is down and nobody can reach anybody. I had a real bad feeling it was the second one. Let me tell you something about freight logistics that most people do not understand. When you order something online and it shows up at your door 2 days later, you think it is magic. It is not magic. It is 1,000 moving pieces held together by software, diesel fuel, and guys like me who have not slept a full night since the year 2008. The warehouse in Memphis was a sprawling complex of steel and concrete, humming with the sound of diesel engines and forklifts at all hours. I knew every corner of it, having spent my early career loading pallets and checking manifests in the sweltering southern humidity before transitioning into systems design. The routing system I built at Overland is not some off-the-shelf solution you buy from a vendor and plug in. It is a living, breathing organism that I have been feeding and patching and rewiring for over a decade. Every truck has a global positioning system transponder that talks to our dispatch server every 90 seconds. The trouble started 3 months ago when Overland got acquired by Summit Capital Partners, a private equity firm out of New York that buys logistics companies the way some people buy shoes. Summit sent in their operations director, a guy named Preston Croft, to optimize our business. Preston is 32 years old, wears those slim fit suits with no socks and loafers, and says things like leverage our synergies and drive operational alpha without any apparent awareness that those phrases mean absolutely nothing. He has got a Master of Business Administration from a fancy school which he mentions within the first 4 minutes of every conversation, and he has never been inside a truck cab, never loaded a 48-foot trailer in 100-degree heat, and never had to explain to a driver named Big Dave why his route just changed for the 3rd time, because a bridge in Arkansas is flooded. Preston called me into his office on a Wednesday. He had redecorated the space that used to belong to our old vice president of operations, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, who actually understood trucking and got pushed into early retirement net the day Summit took over. Now the office had one of those standing desks, a monitor the size of a movie screen, and a fake plant. "Roy," he said, barely looking up from his laptop, "big change is coming. We are bringing in a new fleet management platform, Neural Path. It is artificial intelligence powered, cloud native, and it is going to transform how we do logistics." I sat down even though there was no chair. I grabbed one from the hallway and dragged it in. "What is Neural Path?" I asked. Preston turned his laptop around to show me a website with a lot of blue gradient backgrounds and stock photos of trucks that were clearly European because the cabs looked wrong. "It is a startup out of Dallas. My buddy Brody runs it. They have built an artificial intelligence-driven routing engine that can replace your entire legacy system. Real-time optimization, predictive analytics, autonomous dispatch, the whole package." His buddy Brody. That was the first red flag. The second was that I had never heard of Neural Path, and I know every major logistics platform on the market because it is literally my job. "How many trucks is their biggest deployment?" I asked. Preston scrolled through the website. It says here they have handled fleets of up to 50 vehicles. 50. We run 412. That is like testing a canoe on a pond and then taking it into the Atlantic during hurricane season. "It scales," Preston said with the confidence of a man who has never had to make anything scale. Brody assured me, "The artificial intelligence learns as it goes." I want you to sit with that sentence for a second. The system that is supposed to route $2 to $3 million worth of cargo per day across 26 states is going to learn as it goes. That is like saying the pilot of your cross-country flight is going to figure out how to land while you are in the air. I looked at Preston Croft and tried to maintain my composure. Preston, I said, keeping my voice steady, our routing system handles Department of Transportation compliance for every state we operate in. Hours of service rules, electronic logging device, mandate integration, and hazardous materials routing restrictions. We carry Class 3 flammables and Class 8 corrosives that legally cannot travel through certain tunnels, across certain bridges, or within 2 miles of certain water treatment facilities. Does Neural Path handle hazardous materials routing compliance? Preston stared at me for a second. It handles routing, he said dismissively. I am sure hazardous materials are part of that. Those 9 words told me everything I needed to know. This man was about to bet the entire company on a system built by his college buddy's startup that had never handled a fleet our size, probably had no compliance module, and was going to learn as it goes. But here is the thing. Preston did not want my opinion. He wanted my resignation. 3 days later, Human Resources sent me a calendar invite for a meeting titled Organizational Realignment Discussion. I knew what that meant. I had been in this industry long enough to speak fluent corporate euphemism. The meeting was short. The room was cold and silent as the Human Resources Director, Denise Worthington, sat with a dry expression, tapping her pen on a stack of legal paperwork. Preston sat next to her, alongside a 27-year-old kid named Justin Drake, whom Preston introduced as our new Director of Logistics Technology. Justin had graduated from some coding boot camp 8 months ago, worked at Brody's startup for 6 months, and was now apparently qualified to replace a guy who had been doing this for 11 years. Justin is going to be managing the migration to Neural Path, Preston said. We will need you to hand over all system access and documentation by Friday. Today was Tuesday. They wanted me to hand over a decade of institutional knowledge in 3 days. You realize, I said, that our biggest client, Westfield Foods, has a 138-truck dedicated fleet contract with us. Their delivery windows are measured in 15-minute increments. If we miss a window at one of their distribution centers, they do not just fine us, they have the contractual right to terminate and sue for damages. My system has hit 99.2% on-time delivery for Westfield for 7 straight years. Neural Path's artificial intelligence will handle it, Justin said, not looking up from his phone. It has got machine learning models trained on millions of data points. Millions of data points from where? I asked. Justin glanced at Preston like he was not sure he was allowed to answer. Simulated environments mostly, but the models are extremely robust. Simulated environments. He trained his models on fake data and was about to unleash it on real trucks carrying real cargo worth real money. This was going to be spectacular, and not in a good way. I spent Wednesday and Thursday doing what they asked, documenting everything I could. But here is the reality of complex systems that have evolved over 11 years. You cannot write down instinct. You cannot document the fact that Westfield's warehouse in Charlotte has a loading dock supervisor named Gary who always marks trucks as late if they arrive during his lunch break, even if they are early. So you have to route Charlotte deliveries to arrive before 11:30 or after 1:15. You cannot explain in a manual that our driver Billy Peterson has a medical exemption that limits his driving hours to 10 instead of 11. But the exemption expired and got renewed with different terms last March, and the electronic logging device system still shows the old limit. So you have to manually override it every Monday morning, or he gets flagged for a violation he is not committing. Justin shadowed me for those 2 days. He stood behind me, chewing on a pencil, his eyes glazing over as I explained how the database queried the driver availability indexes. It was clear he was completely out of his depth, yet his posture remained arrogantly relaxed, as if he were simply waiting for the mandatory briefing to conclude. He asked questions that revealed he did not understand the basics. "What is a bill of lading?" he asked at one point. I am not joking. The kid was supposed to run logistics for a $360 million freight company, and he did not know what a bill of lading was. That is like hiring a chef who asks what an oven is. Friday came. I packed my coffee mug, the photo of my daughter's wedding, and the stress ball shaped like a truck that my team had given me as a joke 5 years ago. Other coordinators watched me pack in silence, their faces filled with anxiety because they knew what was coming. I shook hands with the dispatchers, the dock supervisors, and the drivers who happened to be in the yard. Big Dave grabbed me in a bear hug that nearly cracked my ribs. "You sure about this, Roy?" he asked. "They are going to run this place into the ground without you." "Not my circus anymore, Dave. Take care of yourself." I drove home on Interstate 40 listening to classic rock and trying to figure out if what I was feeling was anger, relief, or the particular numbness that comes from watching someone make a catastrophic mistake and being powerless to stop it. Probably all three. The first call came Saturday morning. My buddy Rick in dispatch texted me. Neural Path went live at midnight, and the system just routed a truck carrying hazardous Class 9 materials through the restricted pass. The driver caught it and refused, but Justin told him to just go around. Going around means adding 6 hours in a mountain pass that is closed half the year. The cargo had a 4-hour delivery window. By Monday morning, my phone looked like a newsreel of a slow-motion apocalypse. The artificial intelligence routing system had been live for 60 hours, and it had already created what I can only describe as logistical anarchy. First, it routed 14 trucks, carrying Westfield Foods frozen chicken to their Nashville distribution center. Westfield's Nashville facility handles dry goods. Their frozen facility is in Murfreesboro, 30 miles south. 14 truckloads of chicken sat on a loading dock with no refrigerated bay for 3 hours. By the time someone figured it out, the internal temperature of the trailers had risen past the food safety threshold. $2,100,000 in product destroyed. The drivers were furious, screaming at the dock supervisors who could not do anything because the automated system would not let them unload. The drivers sat in the terminal lounge, drinking terrible coffee, playing cards, and watching their cargo spoil. Rick described the scene as pure chaos, with several drivers' threats of physical violence directed at the automated terminals. The local police had to be called to one truck stop in Arkansas to resolve a dispute between an owner-operator and the stranded's facility staff. The warehouse coordinators were arguing with corporate managers, but the software remained locked. Then the artificial intelligence decided to optimize the fleet by reassigning drivers mid-route. Drivers who were headed to Phoenix got redirected to Portland. Drivers scheduled for local runs in Memphis got sent to Florida. The system did not account for hours of service regulations, so it was telling guys who had already been driving for 10 hours to take on 12-hour runs. When the drivers refused because of federal law, the system flagged them as non-compliant and locked them out of the dispatch portal. By Tuesday, we had 172 trucks sitting idle because their drivers were locked out of the system, and Justin could not figure out how to override it. He called Brody in Dallas. Brody said it was a known issue, and they were working on a patch. A known issue in a system that was managing a $360 million freight operation. That is like finding out the brakes on your car are a known issue after you have already started down the mountain. The Westfield Foods disaster got worse. Their vice president of supply chain, a terrifying woman named Eleanor Davis, called Preston directly. I know this because Rick forwarded me the internal email Preston sent afterward, which was essentially 4 paragraphs of panic disguised as corporate communication. Westfield was threatening to invoke the termination clause in our contract, a $47 million dedicated fleet agreement that represented roughly 14% of Overland's annual revenue. But while the operations crumbled, my legal strategy was moving into place. I had anticipated that Preston and Summit Capital Partners would try to steal my life's work. What they did not realize was that the core dynamic routing system I built was registered under my own corporate entity, Vance Autonomous Solutions, which held a specific patent under Title 35 United States Code Section 271 for dynamic hours of service compliance routing. The contract I signed with Overland's former owners explicitly stated that if I was terminated without cause, the license to use the system would terminate automatically within 96 hours. By continuing to run Neural Path, which was actively trying to copy my patented database queries and dynamic mapping heuristics to bypass their own failures. They were actively violating my patent. Furthermore, my lawyer pointed out that the sudden, unannounced layoff of myself and several other logistics coordinators, without the required notice, violated the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act under Title 29 United States Code, Section 2101, which requires 60 days of written notice for mass layoffs. We drafted a double-barrel legal complaint, patent infringement under Title 35 United States Code, Section 271, and a class action labor lawsuit under the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. The trap was set, and all I had to do was wait for the hammer to fall. We sent the formal cease and desist letter directly to Summit Capital Partners headquarters, highlighting their substantial liabilities. I knew their high-priced lawyers would read it and immediately understand the gravity of their exposure. They would see that the database schemas, foreign keys, and dynamic route indexing they tried to duplicate were fully covered by my patent, exposing to millions of dollars in statutory damages. My lawyer filed the papers in federal court, attaching detailed comparisons of my original source code and their copied structures. The legal paperwork was airtight, representing a complete barrier to any defense they could try to formulate. Wednesday brought the Department of Transportation into the picture. It turns out Neural Pass compliance module had been generating fraudulent electronic logging device records. The system did not understand how the driver logging data worked, so it was backfilling gaps with fabricated hours to show compliance. When the Department of Transportation pulled our records for a random audit on 3 trucks in New Mexico, they found driving logs that showed the same driver in 2 different states at the same time. That is not a glitch. That is federal fraud under Title 18 United States Code Section 1001, and it carries penalties of up to $16,000 per violation per day. The investigators immediately impounded the 3 vehicles, grounding our operations in the Southwest region and placing the company in immediate regulatory jeopardy. The lead inspector Rivera stood at the Memphis terminal yard, writing down dozens of violations in her black notebook as the operations manager sweated under the noon sun. She shook her head, stating clearly that this was a serious criminal matter that could result in a total operational shutdown. The Department of Transportation opened a formal investigation. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration flagged our carrier rating for immediate review. Insurance companies started calling, asking questions about our system migration and whether it affected our risk profile. When your insurance company starts asking questions, it means they are looking for a reason to raise your premiums or drop you entirely. Meanwhile, Denise Worthington from Human Resources was frantically calling the coordinators we had laid off, attempting to offer them small cash settlements to sign liability waivers. But my lawyer had already contacted them, and they stood united, refusing to sign away their rights under the federal law. Thursday morning, I was sitting on my back porch drinking coffee and watching the squirrels fight over the bird feeder when my phone rang. It was Preston Croft, and he sounded like a man who just realized the building he was standing in was on fire. "Roy," he said, his voice hoarse, "I need you to come in." "Morning, Preston," I said. "I saw on the news that Westfield Foods pulled their fleet contract. That has got to sting. Listen, I know this transition has been there were unforeseen issues. Preston, take a breath." He took a breath, but it did not seem to help. The Department of Transportation is threatening to shut down our interstate operations. Westfield is gone. Cisco is threatening to leave. We have got 108 drivers who have not been paid because the new system cannot process payroll exports correctly. The fuel card integration is down, so guys are paying for diesel out of pocket. I have got a driver in Oklahoma who has been sitting at a truck stop for 36 hours because the system will not generate his dispatch order, and Justin cannot figure out why. He was pacing back and forth, the sound of his heavy footsteps audible through the speaker as he realized his career was flashing before his eyes. "Sounds like quite a week," I replied. "Will you come back?" Preston pleaded. "On a consulting basis. Whatever you want." I had been thinking about this moment since Friday, Part of me wanted to say no and watch them burn. But then I thought about the drivers. Big Dave with his daughter's college tuition coming due. Billy Peterson, who sends money to his mother in a nursing home every week. 108 drivers who did not create this mess but were paying for it. I will come back under very specific conditions, I said. First, an $85,000 retainer, non-refundable, wired to my bank account before I walk through the door. Second, a new 2-year contract at double my previous salary, with a clause stating that no system changes can be made without my written approval. Third, Justin Drake goes today. I do not care where you send him, but he does not step foot in my office. I do not work with people who do not know what a bill of lading is. Fourth, I want a written letter from Summit Capital Partners, managing partner, admitting that this disaster was caused by their decision to replace a functioning system with an untested platform, which violated my patent under Title 35 United States Code Section 271. And finally, you will pay 60 days of full wages to every coordinator you laid off to settle the worker adjustment and retraining notification. Act claim under Title 29 United States Code Section 2101. There was a long silence. You are asking me to admit we screwed up in writing, Preston said. Preston, you have got drivers who have not been paid, a federal investigation for falsifying driving logs, and your biggest client just walked out the door. I think the screwing up part is pretty well established. The question is whether you want me to fix it or whether you want to explain to your investors why a $360 million company is about to lose its operating authority. He agreed to everything in under 30 seconds. I sat back and waited for the official confirmation emails to arrive, knowing that they had no other choice. 10 minutes later, my bank notification chimed, confirming the transfer of the $85,000. I forwarded the signed agreements directly to my lawyer to file as a formal settlement of the patent and labor disputes. I showed up Friday morning at 6 in the morning. The parking lot was half empty because a third of our drivers had gone home or were still stranded at truck stops across the country. Rick met me at the door with a coffee and a look of pure relief. I have never been so happy to see anybody in my life, he said. The dispatch floor looked like a war zone. Phones were ringing non-stop, whiteboards were covered in scribbled roots, and Justin's abandoned desk had 3 monitors, all showing the neural path dashboard, which was displaying a cheerful message that said optimizing your fleet above a spinning loading icon that had apparently been spinning for 19 hours straight. First thing I did was kill neural path. I logged into our network architecture, terminated the API gateways, purged the active routing caches, and shut down the cloud integration. Justin had never bothered to disconnect my legacy system because he did not know where it lived. It was still there on the same servers, untouched, like a faithful dog waiting for its owner to come home. I brought my system back online in 40 minutes, watching the green status lights flicker to life across the command console as the old databases synchronized. The routing end spun up, recognized that 412 trucks were scattered across the country in positions that made no logical sense, and started calculating recovery routes. I spent the next 14 hours at my desk manually reassigning every truck, checking every driver's hours of service status against reality instead of the fabricated logs Neural Path had created, and rebuilding the delivery schedule. I needed to prove our system was functional before other clients pulled the plug too. By Saturday afternoon, every driver had a valid dispatch order. Fuel cards were reactivated. Payroll exports were corrected and sent to accounting for emergency processing. When the drivers checked their accounts and saw their salaries with the added bonuses, the radio channels erupted with cheers. I personally called the Department of Transportation investigator in Albuquerque, a no-nonsense woman named Agent Rivera, and walked her through exactly what had happened. I showed her the fabricated records, demonstrated that they were generated by a third-party artificial intelligence system that had since been disconnected, and provided clean logs from my original system proving our actual compliance history. I explained that our legacy software, which had been certified for years, was back in full control. She was not happy, but she was fair. The investigation would continue, but she recommended against an immediate shutdown order. Our carrier rating was saved. Our other major clients stayed. The Department of Transportation downgraded their investigation from an imminent hazard to a standard compliance review. The drivers got their back pay by the following Wednesday with a bonus for the inconvenience. The Westfield Foods contract was gone, and that one hurt, representing $47 million a year. But Preston Croft was held fully accountable. 3 weeks later, he was reassigned to another Summit portfolio company. Rumor has it he is optimizing a chain of car washes in New Jersey. Justin Drake went back to Dallas. Brody's startup lost 2 other clients after our disaster made the rounds in the industry. I got my corner office back. It has got a window that overlooks the truck yard. Every morning, I can watch the rigs roll out, lights on, diesel rumbling, headed in the right direction because the system that tells them where to go was built by someone who understands that behind every data point is a real person. Rick stopped by my office last Friday with a gift. It was a stress ball shaped like a truck, just like my old one. But this one had writing on it that said, "Routemaster do not replace." I put it on my desk next to the coffee mug and leaned back in my chair. Rick brought in another cup of hot coffee, placing it on my wooden desk with a silent nod of appreciation. We both knew that the company had narrowly avoided a total collapse, and that our system was the only thing standing between order and absolute regulatory ruin. Through the window, I could see Big Dave's rig pulling out of the yard, right on schedule, headed for Charlotte. He would make Gary's loading dock well before lunch because the system knew to get him there by 11:15. Some things you cannot teach an algorithm. Some things you can only learn by being there, day after day, solving problems that do not exist in simulated environments. You can throw all the artificial intelligence and machine learning buzzwords you want at a problem. But at the end of the day, somebody has got to know that Gary takes his lunch at 11:30, and Billy's exemption changed last March, and the Eisenhower Tunnel is closed to hazardous materials. Somebody has got to care enough to remember. I took a deep breath, raised my coffee mug, and watched the trucks roll out into the early morning light, knowing that our operations were finally secure under my custom software. The legal battle was won, and the logistics of our empire were once again running exactly as they should. The business would rebuild, and next time, the executives would know better than to play games with the software that keeps the country moving. The trucks would keep rolling, and I would be here to make sure they did, one delivery window at a time.